The bulldozer was idling at the edge of my lawn. Karen was wearing heels and a tactical vest. Clipboard in one hand, eviction notice in the other. And I was standing there barefoot, eating a Pop-Tart. Is this real? Am I being annexed by a yoga club in beige body armor? Why does her vest say HOA enforcement when she once filed a noise complaint over birds? The guy in the bulldozer revved the engine. Behind him, a man in a Party City hard hat yelled, "Trench breach in 3, 2. I sighed. Snap. Pulled the rope. Boom. Drawbridge up. Bulldozer stalled. Karen screamed. I just wanted to park my car. Now I'm defending my land like I'm in Game of Thrones. Suburbia Edition. Rewind. 3 weeks ago, all I did was say no to a security gate. Now I'm preparing for a full-blown HOA siege. Before we dive into this suburban insanity, tell me in the comments, what's the wildest thing your HOA ever did? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you never miss a fresh HOA horror story. Now let's get into the madness. You ever wake up, walk outside with a cup of coffee, and just know you're about to commit a felony? Yeah, that was me last Tuesday. There I was, enjoying the morning sun, birds chirping, squirrels doing squirrel stuff, and then I saw it. A shiny new gate. A gate across my driveway. I blinked once, then twice. Nope. Still there. Not a dream. Not a prank. A real, metal, motorized gate with a keypad, a security camera, and a laminated HOA sticker. I stared at it for a full minute, the coffee in my hand turning from hot to nuclear. Then, like she could smell my rage through the air, Karen rounded the corner. "Oh good, you're up," she said with that god-awful smile that made me wish I had a hose on hand. "Karen," I said slowly, "why is there a gate across my driveway?" She clapped her hands like she just taught a dog to roll over. "It's for security. The HOA passed a new initiative, controlled access to reduce non-resident traffic." I pointed at my house. "This is my property. There is no traffic. I live at the dead end of a cul-de-sac. The only thing that drives up here is me and the occasional Amazon truck. And now they can't." Karen's smile didn't even flinch. "We sent a memo last week." "Oh," I said. "You mean the 13-page packet shoved in my mailbox with a fake urgent sticker on it?" "Yeah." I tossed that after paragraph 1 started with, "Due to increased threats from unregulated visitors." Unregulated visitors, by the way, meant my brother Steve. He's a mechanic with tattoos. Karen thinks he's a gang leader. "I'm sure you'll adapt," she said, typing something into her phone. "The gate code is for residents only. If you'd like to request access, there's a form on the website." I stood there in my pajamas, watching this woman pretend to own the universe, and I realized something deep in my soul. She didn't install a gate. She declared war, and I was going to win it. So here I am, locked out of my own house like a dog that peed on the rug one too many times. I stood at the edge of my property, eyeing the new HOA gate like it owed me rent. My own driveway fenced off like some kind of suburban Jurassic Park. The keypad blinked red every time I even breathed near it. And Karen? Karen just waved from across the street like she hadn't just committed residential treason. I called the HOA hotline, got voicemail, sent an email bounce back, left a complaint on their website. It crashed. Classic HOA IT infrastructure. 2 dudes with a Google Drive and a grudge. So I walked back down the street, past neighbors pretending not to see me. Janice with her poodles crossed to the other side like I was contagious. Roger nodded but immediately started pressure washing his mailbox like it was a crime scene. I sat on the curb and stewed in rage-flavored silence until Steve showed up. "Why are you sitting outside your own house like a sad divorced dad?" I explained the situation. Steve blinked. "She locked you out of your own driveway?" "Yep. And you didn't key her SUV?" "I'm trying to not go to jail." He nodded thoughtfully, then pulled out a vape and said something I'll never forget. "Dude, you ever considered a moat?" I stared at him. He stared back. Then I grinned. And that's how it started. 2 adult men with questionable judgment, a shovel, and an internet connection that led us down a rabbit hole of medieval defense strategies and county zoning laws. Turns out, You can make modifications to your own property for security purposes, as long as they don't pose excessive threat to public safety, which, legally speaking, is not the same thing as a moat. So I spent the next 48 hours planning. Ordered some orange construction fencing off Amazon, bought a wheelbarrow, and rented an excavator from a guy named Kyle who didn't ask questions. Karen, bless her clueless heart, thought I was installing flower beds. Oh good, someone's finally doing something about that sad patch of grass, she said from behind her iced matcha and oversized sunglasses. Yep, I said. Big improvements coming. She smiled like she'd won. And that's when I knew I was going to bury that smile in gravel and swamp water. By Saturday, the trench was dug, 4 feet wide, 3 feet deep, all the way around the gate's base. Steve even added decorative rocks for ambience. Karen came stomping out of her house Sunday morning in her HOA logo windbreaker, mouth already open. What is this? She shrieked. I sipped my coffee. A security feature. You dug a moat around the gate? Sure did. HOA guidelines say I can make my own access improvements. You blocked me in, so I adapted. You're insane. I prefer innovative. Karen fumed. You're going to regret this. I smiled. Already don't. And just like that, round 2 began. Sunday evening rolled in, peaceful and quiet, except for the angry goblin pacing her front yard. Karen hadn't stopped glaring at the moat since I finished it. She called it an act of suburban terrorism. I called it landscaping with character. But I knew the moat alone wouldn't hold her back. Karen was the kind of person who once filed a noise complaint because a kid sneezed too loud. You don't stop people like that with a trench. No, you escalate until the clipboard trembles. So I added water. Yep, filled the whole thing. Hauled out a few hoses. Ran him from my outdoor spigot, and let the magic happen. Took hours, but by morning, my driveway was surrounded by a glistening, murky ring of glory. I even floated a couple of pool noodles in there for flair. Did I technically flood part of my yard? Sure. Was it beautiful? Also yes. At 7:43 a.m., I heard it. The shriek of someone who realized her world was unraveling. Karen was outside in her silk robe, holding a coffee mug that said, #BossLady, staring at the water like it personally insulted her career in passive aggression. She marched across the street in fuzzy slippers, squinting through her oversized sunglasses like they were tactical gear. You have created an environmental hazard, she snapped. Nope, I said cheerfully. Just an aquatic deterrent system for gate-related intrusions. This violates several HOA codes. Which ones? She paused. Section 12, line 4B, or maybe 4C. I leaned against my mailbox. Karen, I read those bylaws. The only thing Section 12 says is that we can't put pink flamingos on our lawn without written approval. She sputtered. Also, I added, you installed a gate on my property without consent, which, according to county records, is considered unauthorized obstruction of access to a primary residence. So, who's violating what now? She went silent. You could see her brain doing parkour trying to justify the hypocrisy. But she didn't leave. Oh no, Karen never retreats. She sulks, then retaliates. And retaliate she did. On Tuesday, I woke up to find a sign staked right next to the moat. Warning: unauthorized body of water. Subject to immediate inspection and removal by HOA enforcement. It was laminated, color-coded, and had a tiny printed signature that read K. Benson, HOA President. She even zip-tied it to a stake. I took a photo, of course. Then I zip-tied my own sign directly above it. Authorized moat. Subject to HOA karma. The neighborhood group chat was lit. Someone even photoshopped a drawbridge over it and wrote, "Release the HOA Kraken." That one got 52 likes. But while Karen was out making signs and filing imaginary water permits, I was upgrading. I installed a basic drawbridge, plank of wood, rope pulley, 2 hinges I bought from the hardware store. Nothing fancy, just functional enough to lower down and let my car cross. Karen stood outside with her arms crossed like she was watching me build a nuclear silo. You can't just build things like that. Sure I can, I said, lowering the bridge like a medieval landlord. It's non-permanent, removable within easement lines, and the HOA can't regulate temporary personal access systems. Page 7 of the zoning code. She growled. She actually growled. And then she made her fatal mistake. She called a tow truck. Yep, the woman who blocked my driveway, watched me dig a moat around her nonsense, and lost every legal challenge. Decided to bring in backup. Except she forgot one thing. You can't tow what you can't reach. The truck pulled up. Driver looked confused as hell. Where's the car? He asked. Karen pointed. Behind the gate. Just tow the whole setup. The guy scratched his head. Ma'am? There's a ditch. With water. I'm not driving across that. Karen demanded. Screamed. Threatened. Told him it was HOA authorized. He looked at me. This your property? Yep. You give permission for removal? Nope. He turned to Karen, shrugged. Sorry, lady. I don't do moat extractions. And with that, the truck rolled away. And Karen? She finally broke. I really thought the tow truck incident would be the end of it. Karen, soaked in humiliation and HOA-branded ego bruises, had finally met resistance she couldn't steamroll. I figured she'd retreat, maybe take up knitting or whatever Karens do to process public defeat. Wrong. Karen went nuclear. Thursday morning, 6:12 a.m. I hear the unmistakable sound of heavy machinery. I stagger to the window, coffee not even brewed yet, and there it is. A bulldozer crawling up my street like it's auditioning for a suburban remake of Mad Max. I blinked. Once. Twice. Nope. Still there. Still heading for my moat. Behind the bulldozer, Karen. Flanked by two guys in orange vests and hard hats that probably came from Party City. One held a clipboard. The other held a level. As if the trench was about to get audited for slope compliance. I stepped onto my porch just as the bulldozer's engine cut off. Karen beamed. We're here to remove your illegal obstruction, she said. Arms out like she just parted the HOA version of the Red Sea. This action is fully authorized under Emergency Enforcement Clause 5C. That clause doesn't exist, I said. She blinked. Well, we voted to add it. You can't just invent laws like you're running a banana republic. We are restoring community standards, she sniffed. The board has determined your actions are a public nuisance and an eyesore. Lady, you literally built a prison gate on my property. And you responded with medieval sabotage. I paused. You say that like it's a bad thing. Then clipboard guy stepped forward. This is a compliance intervention. We'll be filling the trench and removing the bridge. Oh really? I smiled. Got a permit? He froze. We don't need one. This is an internal community issue. I checked with the county building inspector. Any excavation or fill activity on residential property over 2 cubic feet requires a permit. You touch that dirt? That's a $5,000 fine. Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Like a fish gasping for oxygen and HOA relevance. You're bluffing, she hissed. I pulled out my phone and tapped a screenshot. See this? That's from the county's website. And this. I zoomed in on an email. That's the response from the actual inspector. Feel free to verify. Karen looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon and washed it down with vinegar. The bulldozer guy revved his engine nervously. Clipboard guy scratched his head. I don't want to get fined, Karen. You're cowards, she spat. You're letting one man hold an entire street hostage. The bulldozer backed up. Slowly. Like it knew better than to get involved in HOA trench warfare. I watched them retreat. Karen storming away like a villain who forgot her exit line. The crew awkwardly trudging behind. I sipped my coffee. Tasted like victory. For about 5 minutes. Because that afternoon I got a letter. Hand-delivered. With a wax seal. Karen was suing me. I stared at the envelope like it had personally insulted my ancestors. Lawsuit? Over a moat? Apparently, yes. She was suing me for the following. Visual aggression. non-compliant landscaping, intentional distress via fluid-based obstacles, and my personal favorite, psychological moat-based intimidation. It read like a bad Mad Libs game written by a very angry librarian. But the best part? She was representing herself, which meant one thing. Court day was going to be glorious. Court was scheduled for Monday morning. It was held in one of those small-town municipal buildings that smells like burnt coffee and floor wax. The kind of place where legal disputes include everything from parking violations to cat custody battles. I showed up in jeans and a button-down. Karen showed up looking like she was about to defend herself in a Senate hearing. Clipboard in one hand, manila folder in the other, power walking like justice itself. The judge, a bored-looking guy in his 50s who probably just wanted to finish his muffin, called us both up. "Karen Benson," he said, squinting at her paperwork. "You're the plaintiff?" She straightened like a drill sergeant. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm here on behalf of the Willow Creek HOA in response to this man's unprovoked aquatic installation." The judge blinked. "You're suing over a moat?" She sniffed. "It's a water-filled trench, Your Honor. It represents a safety hazard, an eyesore, and an intentional act of community disruption." He turned to me. "And you're the moat guy?" "Guilty as creatively charged," I said. Karen whipped out her flash drive and plugged it into the courtroom monitor like she was about to premiere a Netflix special. A PowerPoint popped up with the title, "The Deterioration of Neighborhood Decency, a Moat-Based Case Study." Slide 1, a photo of my moat at dawn with a red circle and the caption, "Unauthorized Wetness." Slide 2, a map with an arrow pointing at my house labeled, "Threat Zone." Slide 3, a blurry screenshot from the group chat with someone saying, "Honestly, the moat kinda slaps," which she read aloud as evidence of subversion. The judge stared at the screen, then at her, then at me. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, "how do you respond to these accusations?" Cleared my throat. "I'd like to submit my counter-evidence, Your Honor." I walked up and handed him a printed copy of the county zoning code, highlighted and annotated. Then I pulled out a photo of the gate Karen installed across my driveway, complete with timestamps, neighbor statements, and my crown jewel, a letter from the county that literally said, "Private property owners are within their rights to create non-permanent security barriers as long as they do not encroach on public land." Then I showed the HOA's own plat map, which I had also printed and laminated, with my lot clearly marked outside their jurisdiction. Karen started to panic. "That map is outdated," she said, voice cracking. "We voted to annex the surrounding street." "You can't vote to annex land, Karen," I said. "This isn't risk." The judge actually chuckled. He held up both our documents and gave her a long, slow blink. "Ms. Benson, do you have any legal proof that your HOA controls his property?" "No," she muttered. "And this gate you installed, it's not on an HOA easement?" "No." He stacked the papers and slid them aside. "Then I see no violation on Mr. Reynolds' part. In fact, he seems to have gone out of his way to remain within code." Karen made a sound like a tea kettle boiling over. "But he made me look ridiculous." "Ma'am, that's not a crime." The gavel hit the desk. Case dismissed. I walked out of that courtroom with the swagger of a man who just won a duel using only sarcasm in county law. Karen, meanwhile, stomped off to her Prius, nearly tripping on her own laminated poster board. Her supporters were already backing away. One of them literally peeled the HOA sticker off their mailbox as I passed. The neighborhood hasn't been the same since. Karen resigned 2 weeks later. Claimed, hostile environment. Translation: everyone stopped answering her emails and started inviting me to the block parties. The gate, removed by order of the county. The moat, still there, now full of koi fish and one very smug garden gnome named Greg. HOA tried to pass a rule banning aquatic decor. Too late. I submitted Greg as an emotional support guardian. Certified. Approved. Framed on my wall. And that, dear listeners, is how I turned a Karen-fueled HOA nightmare into a backyard renaissance. Moral of the story? Never underestimate a guy with Google, rage, and a shovel. Karen brought a bulldozer. I brought a drawbridge. Guess who's still got the driveway? If you enjoyed this HOA Smackdown, drop a like to help others find it. Comment below, what would you do if someone tried to gate your house? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where normal people take down neighborhood tyrants. One ridiculous rule at a time.